Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal and healing.
For many people today, God is distant. He's absent. He's not here now. For many people, God is an enigma. He's silent. They never hear him speak. But the Bible tells us of a different kind of God. The Bible tells us of a God who is here now with us. The whole message of Jesus was God made man, speaking our language, living our lives. God is not silent. He's here. This is the greatest discovery we can ever make in our lives. Now, the teaching of the Bible can help us quite a lot in this, and it's very clear. If you take, say, Psalm 29, verse 4, you see these words: "The voice of the Lord is powerful." It isn't just a gentle whisper all the time. It's a powerful voice which we can hear, which makes sense. And then we read in the letter to Hebrews that God has spoken through the centuries. In the past, God spoke to our forefathers through the prophets at many times and in various ways. You see, the whole message of the Bible is about a God who has got something to say to you and to me, who speaks and speaks our language. And so we see in John 1, verse 14, the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. The Word, the Logos, Jesus. Now, let's just take this a stage further. People who hear Jesus recognize his voice. Jesus says, "My sheep will listen to my voice." The sheep recognize the voice of the shepherd. That is the degree of intimacy, of communication between us and God that Jesus wants to get across to us. But more than that, it's as though the Word is something to be eaten. Jesus was quite clear. He was manna, bread from heaven. And you eat bread to live. And this is why in the book of Deuteronomy, way back in the Old Testament, we see these words: "Man does not live by bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord." Deuteronomy 8, verse 3. And again, this goes right the way through to the book of Revelation. I have the words here. Jesus takes the initiative. He comes to speak to us, and this is what he says: "Here I stand, knocking at the door. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and sit down with him, and he with me." That's in the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 20 and 21. It's spelt out so precisely, isn't it? That God actually speaks to us. All that is necessary is for us to listen. And if you think of the way in which Jesus spoke of his own words, it gives you some idea of how important they are. He said, "These words you hear are not my own. They belong to the Father who sent me." And he said, furthermore, heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. And it's like a hammer on an anvil. Right the way through the Old Testament, the plea of the prophet is, listen, listen. Let's take Isaiah chapter 55. Listen to me, give ear, and come to me. Hear me, that your soul may live. Very famous words from Isaiah 55, verse 2. But, warning in the New Testament from 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 4. They will turn their ears away from the truth, and they will turn aside to myths. What do you do? What do I do? God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. He spoke in a thundering voice. He spoke to Elijah in a still, small voice. He spoke to Samuel in the temple at night. This same God is constantly speaking to you and to me. In our noisy world, our noisy life, are we really listening? Are we really endeavouring to hear God speak? Remember the words, hear me, that your soul may live. Mother Teresa, with whom Maranatha had a very close bond, she constantly said, stop talking, stop arguing, stop debating. Listen, God's got something to say to you. She said, if we really want to pray, we must first learn to listen. In Maranatha, people spring to mind. Linda and Margaret listened to God. And he said, go to Hong Kong and work with the drug addicts. And they went. In Maranatha, Joan listened to God, and he said, Joan, I want you to go to Peru and feed the street children in Lima. 7 weeks ago, she was in Lima. 7 weeks later, rather, she was in Lima. And then, more close to home, Peter heard God say, go onto the streets of Manchester. Go and meet the homeless, the addicts, the prostitutes. And he went. The Barnabas Project was launched. Eric heard God say, go to Sudan to help the mentally disabled children. And Eric went to the Sudan. Here in this district, we have our dear brother and sisters, Rob and Catherine and Sarah. God said to them, go to Uganda. And they went. And they're working with vast numbers of children, some with AIDS, many orphans. God does speak, and he makes his will known. It's perhaps dangerous to listen. Jeremiah heard God say, go and proclaim. Isaiah heard God speak. He said, go and tell this people. Amos heard God speak. Go and prophesy to my people. Gideon heard God speak. Go and save Israel. Joshua heard God speak. Get ready to cross the Jordan now. Jesus himself said, go and make disciples of all nations. This is what life is about. It is the excitement of hearing God speak. Praying can be very dangerous because God has something for you. He's got something to say to you. And when you and I listen, really listen, we will hear, and his words will become for us the words of life. God bless you.
Dennis Wrigley Ministries, a better way, unity, renewal and healing. Thank you for watching.